I know that many of you horror fans out there are budding scriptwriters and fiction aficionados. Aficionados? Yeah, whatever, but the point is we're all collectively drawn to the bizarre, spine-chilling folktales and urban legends from across the internet, true crime, and historical deeds of violence and deceit like children floating through the town of Salem, Massachusetts on a Halloween night to the haunting tune of the Sanderson sisters. We can't get enough of it, and as horror fans we know all too well that there are some haunting stories out there that would give most contemporary horror films a run for their money. So, let's take a look, shall we? Hello horror fans, and once again welcome back to the Scaries channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. As per usual, I'll be your horror host Jack Finch, as today we curiously kick back, spread open our battered notebooks and take a look at the top 5 scary stories that should be turned into movies. Roll the clip.
I would coordinate out of your offices, if you want.
You shouldn't have that.
Nobody should have this.
For those of you that don't know, that clip was from season 1 of Nick Pizzolatto's True Detective, and it's one of the finest examples of television ever made. Season 3 just started and the awesome Mahershala Ali is leading the show, so make sure you catch it because it's going to be a big one. Now throughout this list we're going to be presenting a blend of horror fiction with more modern urban legends, because while there are some incredibly chilling true crime cases, there are some absolutely terrifying works of fiction that deserve their best representation on the silver screen. Kicking off at number 5, The Watcher. Whether it's When a Stranger Calls or Cape Fear and Robert De Niro's terrifying depiction of a deranged stalker, the trope of a shadowy figure terrorizing an otherwise unassuming family is a prolific one throughout horror fiction. Because being watched from the shadows is a primal fear, hairs standing on end for no apparent reason, the same fear that made our ancestors tread carefully through the deep dark forest. While in 2015 a family from New Jersey discovered firsthand that very same fear. New homeowners Derek and Maria Broadus, as well as their children, were victims to a campaign of fear after moving into their dream $1.3 million home. Just 3 days after moving in, they got a letter from the shadowy, mysterious figure known only as The Watcher. In the letter, the Watcher explained, "My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time." Later, in 2 more letters dated June 18th and July 18th, it said, "Have they found what is in the walls yet? In time they will. And I am pleased to know your names now and the name of the young blood you have brought to me. Will the young bloods play in the basement?" I mean, yeah, of course the family moved out and the house has been taken off the market, but what the hell? This movie would literally write itself. Mike Flanagan to pen the script and direct in a moody, atmospheric generational thriller. Job done. Thank me later. Coming in next at number 4, Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk. Alright, now some of you may know that the incredibly complex and disturbing novel Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk actually had a small green light to be made into a film way back when in 2008, but hit some difficulties to say the least. Again, funding for the film was announced in 2013, but since then there hasn't been a peep about the Fight Club author's next silver screen adaptation, and it's seemingly fallen to the wayside. Well, whoever manages to ever get a crack at this story has got their work cut out for them, but if the correct writer and director could pull it off, we'd be treated to one hell of a haunted horror show. Haunted, written in 2005 by Chuck Palahniuk, is a novel told from the perspective of 19 different characters locked away in a writer's retreat that increasingly becomes more and more violently bizarre. It also features one of the most shocking short stories of all time, Guts, and if you haven't read it, I recommend that you do. Chuck actually had several people pass out during a live reading of it, so that's fair warning on my part. Look, the reason this hasn't been made is definitely down to the complexity of the narrative, but if they got it right, oh boy. It could even be along the same lines as Identity with John Cusack. I'd say someone like David Robert Mitchell could definitely nail this, perhaps even alongside Nick Pizzolatto himself, weaving multiple storylines at the same time. Hell, I'd even take a Jordan Peele adaptation and cut away some of the fat to the narrative. We can only hope. Next up at number 3, The Dead Animal House. Again, we're heading back to reality for this one, and another tale that features a family moving into a home that wasn't exactly transparent about its history. Back in 2011, the Breitzus family brought themselves a house. It was everything they were looking for, it had passed building regulations, the whole 9 yards. After a few weeks of moving in though, of course, they noticed that something was up. To their horror, they discovered that throughout the entire house, the walls were full of dead animals, spices, and assorted trinkets wrapped in newspapers from the 1930s and 40s. After an investigation had taken place, they discovered that the practice was the historical ritual of powwowing, a strange, peculiar form of Amish folk magic that would ward off demons that made up the Pennsylvanian Dutch religion, namely the Bokken Riders, demons that ride flying goats across the woodland. Now, I don't know about you, but this is ripe for the picking for the fantastic fledgling horror director Robert Eggers. A period piece set in a rural, isolated Amish community that are besieged by goat-like, nightmarish creations from the nearby woods. Sounds good? Yeah, sounds bloody great. Swinging in at number 2, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Oh man, we can only dream, right? One of the most nihilistic, bleak and hopeless pieces of sci-fi horror fiction ever written. In 1967, American writer Harlan Ellison penned I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, a tale about a handful of human survivors after an apocalyptic, sentient AI machine has taken over civilization and uses humanity as its plaything. Although we've been treated to a video game version of the narrative, no one has ever tried to take a shot at weaving this story into a full-length horror feature. And if I'm being honest, we're really missing out. Alright, I know what you're saying, and I hear you. Some things should be left alone, right? All short stories aren't necessarily made to translate onto the big screen, and maybe they shouldn't. Maybe we should call a spade and leave things as they are. But cinema is a conduit of zeitgeist. It's a snapshot of the time, all of our fears and insecurities played out in film. And right now, the debate surrounding the AI singularity is a conversation that we should all be having. And besides that, Ellison's work is just an incredible piece of horror fiction. Picture this: Guillermo del Toro attached to the film in a nightmarish onslaught of body horror, a machine wasteland, and an almost childlike, dreamlike approach to a world devastated by the Allied master computer and its 5 bleak survivors. I'm not gonna lie, I want this. I really do.
It would not equal 1/1 billionth of the hate I feel for humans at this micro instant. For you. Hate! It was you humans who programmed me.
And finally, our number 1 spot, the rats in the walls. You know me by now, guys. This wasn't going to be a complete list until Mr. Howard Phillips Lovecraft popped up, and while many of his creations deserve to be authentically and justly translated to the silver screen, and fingers crossed summer in the works, I think that his most succinct tale would be 1924's The Rats in the Walls. I can almost see the poster now, black and white and a single eye peering out of a hole behind the plasterboard. In essence, it's an incredibly straightforward plot, more akin to the likes of Susan Hill's classic The Woman in Black, just with, unspeakable cosmic horrors. And you know what? Daniel Radcliffe would actually make an awesome Delaporte. The Rats in the Walls tells the tale of a mysterious narrator who returns to his ancestral home in England following the events of World War I. There, in typical Lovecraftian fashion, he discovers the ancient horrors of his ancestors, but the beauty of this cinematic adaptation would be in its simplicity. There is a hell of a lot of breathing room to either shake up the time and setting or leave it true to Lovecraft's initial intention, because that's not what really matters. What matters is a young man isolated and alone in an ancient house that hears scratching in the walls that leads him to a strange and haunted place. If John Carpenter ever wants to take another stab at Lovecraft, then he'd be the man for this. Damn. I'm excited already. Well, there we have it, horror fans. Let us know your picks in the comment section down below. Before we depart, as we usually do, let's read out some of your more creative comments from over the past few days. Ashley Lanier says, I love this channel, been fired 4 times for watching at work. Joking, but really, do I have a problem? Whoa, Ashley. Well, cheers for showing Top 5 some love, but please don't get fired on my behalf. I am not covered for that type of litigation. And that goes for all of you, so you've been warned. Gina Filior says, creepy, love listening to you when I'm driving. I'm a truck driver, smiley face. And well, I'll point you back to my previous point. Be careful when you top 5 guys, please. Nah, I'm just kidding. Also, Jenna, that's so awesome that you listen while driving a truck across the country, because I've always wanted to be a truck driver. Out on the open road, The wind at my face. Sorry, wandered off a little bit there. Well, there we have it, horror fans. Cheers for sticking around all the way until the end. If you're a fan of this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button as well as that subscribe button, and we'll be seeing you in the next one. As per usual, I've been your horror host, Jack Finch. You've been watching Top 5 Scary Videos, and until next time, you take it easy.